What if history lied? Not by accident. Not by omission. But by design, a deliberate act of erasure, a surgical removal of something too powerful, too dangerous, to be remembered. The Olympians, the gods you know, the ones whispered about in myth and carved into marble, were not the first to rule. They were not the architects of existence. They were the usurpers. Before them, before Zeus hurled his thunderbolt, before Mount Olympus crowned itself king of the heavens, there were others. The Titans. Their names are half forgotten, their stories mangled beyond recognition, their empire shattered and cast into blackness. But make no mistake, their rule was absolute. And their fall was not the end. It was the beginning of a silence forced upon history. Ask yourself this: why would the victors leave no trace of what came before? Why bury the past beneath layers of falsehoods? Unless the truth was too monstrous to tell. Chronos, Rhea, Oceanus, Hyperion, the Miss, Mnemosyne, Prometheus. Titans, but not merely gods. They were primal forces. Lawless, untamed, towering over the world like living continents, their will shaping existence itself. They ruled without mercy, without challenges, without fear, until the children they created turned against them. The war that followed was no mere clash of egos. It was annihilation. The sky ripped apart. The earth shattered. Mountains crumbled as entire generations of immortals were swallowed into the abyss of Tartarus. This was not victory. This was extermination. And yet, the Titans never truly died. Their blood pulses through the veins of ancient myths, their whispers creep through forgotten texts, their power lingers in the world's oldest fears. They are not gone. They are waiting. Buried. Imprisoned. Remembered only by those who know where to look. You are holding the forbidden text. The manuscript that should have stayed lost. The account of the gods before the gods. And if you read on, if you let your mind step beyond the barrier of what history allows, you will see them. The ones who ruled before Olympus. The ones who knew power before Zeus ever stole it. And once you know their names, you will never forget them again. Darkness was never empty. It was never silent. It was never nothing. It writhed. It hungered. It pulsed with something older than time itself, a force that had no name, no shape, no boundary. It was chaos, but not the chaos mortals speak of in frightened whispers. Not disorder. Not randomness. Something far worse. It was the raw, churning essence of existence before existence. A limitless, formless hunger. It twisted in unseen ways, stretching and contracting, birthing and devouring in the same endless motion. There was no space, no time, no light, only motion. And in that restless movement, something began to strain against the void. Something clawed. The first shudder was not a sound. Sound could not yet exist. But it was felt, an unbearable shift, an unbearable crack in the endless abyss. The darkness ripped. And for the first time, something other than chaos breathed. Gaia. Not a name. Not a being. A presence. A force impossible to cage in words. She was the weight beneath all things, the foundation that had never existed before. She was solid in a way nothing had ever been. A slumbering titan of immeasurable vastness, her body stretching in directions that had never before been defined. She was existence made flesh. The first shape in an unshaped world. But chaos was not done. It lurched and twisted, birthing something just as unfathomable, something just as unstoppable. A force that would never be bound, never be still. The sky. Uranus. He did not arrive. He did not descend. He was simply there, draped over Gaia like a storm of impossible vastness. Where she was earth, he was infinity. Where she was anchor, he was limitless. And in that instant, when solid met endless, when stillness touched the uncontainable, the universe shook. Gaia and Uranus were not lovers. not in any way mortals could comprehend. They were forces colliding, fusing, warring with every breath. They were creation. And their clash sent shockwaves through the void, cracks in the darkness, ruptures that bled something new. Their union was violent, relentless, unyielding. And from that violent embrace, their first children tore into existence. They did not crawl from wombs. They did not cry or wail. They erupted. The Titans, the first beings with form, with will, with power. They were not mere gods. They were monuments. Living, breathing pillars of power, each one forged from the unbearable tension of creation itself. Kronos, his presence heavy with something dark and unspeakable. Rhea, her soul laced with the quiet, aching knowledge of what was to come. Hyperion, a walking inferno of celestial fire. Oceanus, his very being a roaring flood that stretched without end. And the moment they existed, the moment their forms solidified in the vastness of this newborn world, something changed. Chaos, forgotten, overshadowed, diminished. It had always been all things. Now, it was less. And something that had existed forever does not tolerate being cast aside. Gaia's children had no idea what they had done. They had risen. They had claimed space. But something ancient, something boundless, something furious still seethed beneath it all, watching, waiting, a silent promise hidden in the cracks of reality. Because the first darkness never truly disappears. It only waits. Silence. Not the absence of sound. Not peace. Not stillness. Something worse. A silence so vast it swallowed everything. So absolute that it pressed against existence itself, smothering, choking, refusing to let anything take form. And then, a crack. Not a sound, not at first. A rupture. A tearing of something unimaginably old. A presence that had existed without shape, without name, without limit twisted into something new. Gaia. She did not awaken. She forced herself into being. A rupture in the void, a rebellion against nothingness. Where there had been only formless hunger, she was solid. A vast, endless weight pressing outward, defining space where there had never been boundaries. She stretched, unfurling like an uncoiling beast, her presence crushing into the nothing, shaping it. She was earth. Not dirt. Not rock. Something far more ancient. A force so immense it sent tremors through the darkness, something vast enough to hold everything. But she was alone. And the silence remained. Gaia pulsed, her form aching with something new. A yearning. A wound. A hollowness stretching across her vastness. It was unbearable. She was not meant to be only this. She needed more. Then, shadow over stone. A weightless vastness smothering her form. The sky did not rise. The world is vast, filled with things that are not his. He can hear it breathing beneath him, the whispers of those who think themselves safe, untouched by Olympus's rule. And that is unacceptable. His hands itch. His blood hums like a song without an end. Power means nothing if it is not used. So he reaches. For kingdoms. For gods. For bodies. Because Zeus does not want. He takes. She waits. The air is thick, unmoving. A stillness that clings to her skin like damp silk. Her fingers press into the cold stone of Olympus, nails biting into marble as if it can anchor her, as if it can hold her together. But nothing holds against him. Not vows. Not elf. Uranus crushed against her, pressing, smothering, claiming every inch of her surface, his vastness dominating her foundation. The weight of him, the unrelenting storm of his presence, spread over her like an unbreakable shroud. He would never let go. And she hated him for it. Zeus is gone. Again. A sharp breath. A muscle twitching in her jaw. Hated how he held her, how his presence smothered everything, how he refused to allow space, refused to give anything room to rise. She had not created herself to be caged. And yet, she was trapped beneath him. But she was Gaia. And Gaia did not submit. Something inside her pushed back. A force, raw and violent, broke through. Children. Not born. Wrenched into existence. Each one tearing free from Gaia's boundless form, screaming into the weight of their father's sky. Titans. Monsters. Forces beyond reckoning. And with each birth, Uranus tightened his grip. He saw them as threats. He was right. The sky was too heavy. A crushing, endless weight, pressing down, suffocating, refusing to let anything rise. Uranus would not allow it. His presence smothered Gaia, unyielding, relentless. He loomed over her, vast and formless, a prison that stretched from one end of existence to the other. She had created him, and he had caged her. But something inside her refused to be silent. It twisted, writhed, something restless, something alive. It was not just one thing. It was many. A force buried beneath the crushing sky, screaming for release. Gaia's body trembled. The first contraction. A raw, brutal surge that ripped through the very foundation of existence. Not birth. Not yet. A warning. Uranus felt it. And he pressed down harder. Gaia's vast form heaved, her entire being quaking beneath the suffocating embrace of the sky. She could not breathe. She could not move. But she could create. The second contraction came, violent, unstoppable. The force inside her clawed against the suffocating dark, twisting, tearing free. The first. A force of unimaginable strength, his form impossibly vast, unshakable. He did not crawl from the earth, he broke through it, wrenching himself into existence with a force that sent tremors through Gaia's body. Oceanus. And he was not alone. Before Gaia could even settle, before the tremors of his birth had faded into the silence, the second came, then the third. Coeus. Crius. Hyperion. They were not like the gods that would come later. They did not open their eyes in wonder. They did not learn their strength. They were born knowing. Titans, colossal, raw, powerful beyond words. Forces that should never have been contained. But they were. Because Uranus did not celebrate them. He did not welcome them. He feared them. And so he did the only thing he could. He reached down, his vast, suffocating force pressing harder, his presence smothering Gaia, forcing her to swallow them back, bury them within herself. Her own children locked away inside her flesh. The agony was unbearable. The weight of the sky above her, the rage boiling beneath her. The Titans, trapped, buried alive in the very body that had created them. But Gaia was not helpless. She could still create. And so she did. More. The force within her did not die. It did not weaken. It multiplied. One after another, more Titans clawed into existence. Iapetus. Thea. Rhea. Themis. Mnemosyne. Phoebe. Tessis. Each one vast. Each one strong. Each one caged beneath the unrelenting sky. And then, the last. Kronos. He was not like the others. He did not break into the world with raw, unthinking power. He did not rage at his prison. He waited. He listened. He could hear the tension in the silence, the fury vibrating in his mother's form. And he understood. Gaia did not need another Titan. She needed a weapon. And he would be it. The light had not yet come. There was no dawn, no golden promise rising on the horizon. There were no horizons at all. Only the endless, crushing dark. It was not empty. No, emptiness would have been mercy. This was something else, something alive. A weight that pressed against the edges of existence, whispering in a language too old to be spoken. The first gods had not yet taken their thrones, but something older had already claimed the void. NYX moved within it. She did not walk, for there was no ground beneath her. She did not fly, for there was no air to carry her. She was the movement, the shifting of black upon black, the heavy silence that threatened to smother even thought itself. Even chaos had feared her. She was not the absence of light, she was something far more terrible. She was the weight that crushed the stars before they could burn, the hush before the last breath. Where she passed, nothing dared to be. And yet, she was not alone. Something stirred beneath her cloak of infinite shadow, coiling through the nothingness. Erebus. He was not like her. Where she devoured, he corrupted. If she was silence, he was the whisper within it. The twisting, slithering presence that turned stillness into dread. His form had no beginning, no end. It was simply there, a thing that should not be, yet was. He wrapped around NYX, his cold tendrils stretching into the places where no light had yet been conceived. And in that space, in that unspeakable blackness, they created. It was not birth. Birth was something mortal, something with softness, with light, with hope. What came from them had no such weakness. Hypnose. The first sleep, the great suffocation of the mind. Not peace, not rest, a descent into nothing. A force that pulled, dragged, lulled the living into a place where they could no longer fight, no longer wake. Thanatos. The end. The first shadow to ever stretch across a body and steal its warmth. He did not smile. He did not grieve. He simply took. Silent, cold, inevitable. Morpheus. The deceiver. The dream weaver. Not merely an illusion, but a trickster with no form of his own, only stolen faces, whispered voices that were never real. And these were merely the first. One by one, their children bled into existence, doom, misery, strife, deception. Not as monsters, but as forces, as truths older than the stars. They had to be. A world without them was impossible. And the dark stretched on. But there was something else. Something beneath it. A pulse, a throb within the black. A rift in the silence. The others. The firstborn of chaos, the ones no one speaks of. And as they stirred, the universe shuddered. For not even NYX controlled them. The sky bled. Not with light, not with rain, but with something deeper, something primal. The first war was not fought with swords or spears, not with cries of victory or banners of conquest. It was older than language, older than death. A god was about to fall, and the world held its breath. Uranus did not see it coming. For eons, he had ruled from above, an endless vault of unyielding power. He was not a king, kings could be questioned. He was not a father, fathers could love. He was sky. Cold. Distant. Infinite. And he thought himself untouchable. But beneath him, Gaia stirred. She had known patience longer than time itself. She had borne the weight of his cruelty, of his tyranny, of his fear. She had watched her children suffer. Titans, great, mighty beings, crushed beneath their father's hand, buried alive in her own flesh. The hundred-handed ones, the Cyclopes, locked in darkness, screaming for release that never came. Gaia did not forget. Gaia did not forgive. There was one. One son who listened, who felt her agony as his own. Cronus. He had waited in the shadows, waited with her, waited as the earth trembled with the weight of its own rage. And now, the blade was in his hands. Not a blade of man. No, this was something ancient. Sharpened by resentment, by vengeance, by the hunger to tear down what had stood unchallenged for too long. The sickle. The only thing in existence sharp enough to carve through the flesh of the sky. Uranus descended, oblivious, as he had done for eternity. He stretched himself across the world, unaware that the land beneath him was no longer passive. Gaia did not hold him now. She trapped him. The earth rose in defiance, a prison of stone and fury. He fought, but too late. The weight of the world itself had turned against him. And from the darkness, Cronus struck. The sky screamed. It was not thunder. It was something worse. The first wound, the first true pain to befall the cosmos. The sickle bit deep, cutting into the fabric of the heavens, tearing away power that had once been absolute. Blood rained down, thick and endless, staining the world forever. From it, monsters were born. The Erinyes, the Furies, vengeance given form. They would never forget. They would never rest. The spirits of retribution, born from the fall of a god, to haunt those who betrayed blood. And something else. Something far more terrible. The sky had been broken, but it was not silent. From the severed flesh, the black ichor that once ran through Uranus like veins, something slithered free. A curse. A prophecy. A whisper through the ages that would coil around time itself. And from that moment, the heavens would never be whole again. The blood had barely dried. The sky still trembled from the wound. The earth had swallowed the cries of the fallen god, yet his curse still slithered through the air, coiling around time itself. The war was over. The war had just begun. In the silence, Cronos stood. The sickle was still slick in his hands, dripping with the last remnants of Uranus. His father's power had once stretched over all existence, unchallenged, eternal. But now, the old god was a whisper, his rule shattered, his body cast to the void. And Cronos had taken his place. He had waited for this moment, craved it. The youngest son, the last-born Titan, the one no one had expected to rise. But Cronos had learned how to wait. He had watched the others cower beneath their father's weight, had felt the cold grip of oppression in every moment of his existence. They had all lived in fear. But not anymore. The other Titans looked at him with something between awe and terror. He could see it in their eyes, the wariness, the uncertainty. He had freed them. But what did freedom mean if the one who held the blade was just as fearsome as the tyrant before him? Cronos let the silence stretch, let the weight of what had been done settle into their bones. Then, slowly, he raised the sickle. The age of Uranus is over. His voice did not shake. It did not falter. It was iron, unyielding, heavier than the sky itself. Now begins the age of Cronos. There was no cheer. No celebration. The Titans knew better than to trust in words alone. The past had shown them the cruelty of power, the fickleness of gods. But Cronos had seen what his father had done wrong. He would not repeat the same mistakes. No, he would make his own. Time shifted. The world bent to his will. With each passing moment, Cronos tightened his grip, shaping existence to his liking. He would not be weak. He would not be questioned. And so, as the Titans took their places beneath him, as the echoes of Uranus faded into the void, the earth trembled once more. Not in fear. In warning. A hush falls over the cosmos, the kind that precedes a storm. In the shadowed recesses of existence, where time itself hesitates, a figure moves with deliberate grace. Rhea, Titan of fertility and motherhood, strides through the void, her presence both serene and formidable. Her heart pounds with a rhythm that echoes the impending upheaval, each beat a harbinger of the chaos to come. Beside her looms Cronus, her brother and consort, a being whose ambition knows no bounds. His eyes, cold and calculating, betray a hunger for dominion that chills the very marrow. Together, they have ushered in a new era, toppling their father Uranus from his celestial throne. Yet, the victory is hollow, for a prophecy lingers, a whisper in the dark, that one of their own offspring will rise to dethrone him. The weight of this foretelling presses upon Rhea like the firmament itself. She watches, powerless, as Cronus succumbs to a paranoia that festers and grows. With each child she bears, Hestia, Demeter, Hera, Hades, Poseidon, Cronus's dread manifests in a horrific ritual. One by one, he seizes the newborns, his grip unyielding, and swallows them whole, consigning them to a living tomb within his own form. Rhea's screams of anguish reverberate through the heavens, a mother's torment immortalized in the fabric of the universe. Desperation claws at her soul, a relentless tide that threatens to drown her. The maternal instinct, fierce and unyielding, ignites within her a resolve as unbreakable as adamantine chains. She knows that to save her progeny, to thwart the cycle of filicide, she must act with cunning and courage that rivals the gods themselves. When the time comes to bear her sixth child, Zeus, the fires of rebellion kindle in her heart. Under the cloak of night, she steals away to the island of Crete, the air thick with the scent of salt and secrecy. In the hidden depths of a sacred cave on Mount Ida, amidst the whispers of ancient oaths, she brings forth the infant god. His cries pierce the darkness, a clarion call that destiny has been set into motion. With hands that tremble yet are steadfast, Rhea cradles the swaddled stone she has prepared, a decoy, a lifeless mimicry of her flesh and blood. She returns to Cronus, presenting the bundled rock with a facade of sorrow and submission. The Titan, blinded by his own fears and the shadows of prophecy, takes the offering without suspicion. He gulps it down, the sound of stone meeting flesh a grotesque symphony of deception. Back in the cavernous sanctuary, Zeus suckles at the breast of the nurturing goat Amalthea, his infant fingers grasping at strands of her coarse fur. The Curetes, armored warriors of unwavering loyalty, stand sentinel at the cave's mouth. Their spears clash against their shields in rhythmic cadence, a martial lullaby designed to mask the infant's cries from the ever-listening ears of Cronus. Each clang resonates with defiance, a percussive heartbeat that fuels the burgeoning storm of revolution. Rhea's visits to her hidden son are stolen moments, fraught with peril and poignancy. She whispers to him tales of injustice and the glory of a world unshackled from tyranny. Her lullabies are woven with threads of vengeance and hope, melodies that etch the blueprint of rebellion into his very being. She watches as he grows, his divine essence radiating with a brilliance that promises the dawn of a new order. The day arrives when Zeus, now a god in his own right, stands before his mother, his eyes alight with the fire she has kindled. Together, they conspire, mother and son bound by a shared destiny to overthrow the oppressive reign of Cronus. Rhea's heart swells with a tumultuous blend of fear and pride as she equips Zeus with the knowledge and tools he will need to confront his father. She knows the path ahead is treacherous, paved with the bones of fallen deities and stained with the ichor of celestial battles. As Zeus departs to fulfill his fate, Rhea remains in the shadows, her spirit entwined with his every step. She is the silent architect of the rebellion, the maternal force whose love transcends the boundaries of mortality and divinity. Her sacrifice, her cunning, her unwavering resolve are the unsung verses in the epic of the gods, a testament to the power of a mother's love to shape the very cosmos. The heavens tremble as the storm unleashed by Rhea's defiance gathers momentum, a tempest that will sweep away the old order and give birth to a new pantheon. And at the heart of it all stands Rhea, the mother of gods, her legacy etched into the stars, a beacon of resilience and the indomitable spirit of motherhood. A hush fell over the cosmos, a silence so profound it seemed the universe itself held its breath. From this void emerged Oceanus, the eldest Titan, his form vast and encompassing, embodying the boundless river that encircled the world. His eyes mirrored the depths of the abyss, and his presence exuded an aura of unyielding power. Beside him stood Tessis, his sister and consort, her essence flowing with the purity of fresh waters, her touch nurturing the very veins of the earth. Together, they were the progenitors of all waterways, their union giving birth to 3,000 river gods and 3,000 Oceanids. Each offspring was a lifeline, coursing through the body of the world, vital and untamed. Achelous, the mightiest of rivers, whose currents could sweep away the strongest of mortals, Alpheus, whose relentless pursuit of the nymph Arethusa led him beneath the sea, Scamander, who dared to rise against Achilles, his waters boiling with fury. Among the Oceanids were Metis, the embodiment of wisdom swallowed by Zeus, Eurynome, mother of the graceful chariots, and Styx, the sacred river of oaths, whose waters even the gods revered. Oceanus, though a titan of immense power, chose a path of neutrality during the great war between his kin and the Olympians. He abstained from the carnage, his currents remaining steady, undisturbed by the tumult that shook the heavens and the earth. This abstention spared him the grim fate of his brethren, who were cast into the abyss of Tartarus. Yet, his influence was undeniable. It was to his realm that Hera sought refuge, recalling the nurturing she received from Oceanus and Tessis during Zeus's uprising against Cronus. Tessis, though less prominent in the tales of gods and mortals, held a quiet dominion over the nourishing aspects of water. She was the unseen force behind the springs that gushed forth life, the gentle streams that carved valleys, and the rains that quenched the thirst of the earth. Her role was subtle yet essential, a testament to the often overlooked power of the feminine divine. Their domain was not just the physical embodiment of water but also the metaphysical boundary between the known world and the mysteries beyond. Beyond the river Oceanus lay realms shrouded in enigma, the sunless land of the Cimmerie, the dream-laden country, and the entrance to the underworld itself. It was believed that to cross Oceanus was to venture into the unknown, to face the very essence of the subconscious and the afterlife. The legacy of Oceanus and Tessis is etched into the very fabric of the world. The vast Tessis Ocean, a prehistoric body of water that once separated ancient continents, bears her name, a silent homage to her enduring influence. Their children, the rivers and nymphs, continue to flow through myths and landscapes, immortal symbols of the life-giving and sometimes destructive power of water. In the grand tapestry of mythology, Oceanus and Tessis represent the primal forces that shape existence. They are the currents that connect realms, the waters that nourish and divide, the silent witnesses to the rise and fall of gods and mortals alike. Their story is not one of conquest or dominion but of presence and continuity, an eternal flow that underpins the very essence of life. The sky did not rise that morning. It tore. A single slash across the heavens bled gold onto the black. A scream too ancient for is echoed in the bones of the cosmos. Somewhere between silence and agony, a shape emerged, vast, brilliant, pulsing with a fire not made for mortals. Hyperion. His breath was sunlight. His gaze, flame. He did not walk, he scorched paths into being. And beside him, gliding like a blade through mist, Thea, the first gleam of morning, the flicker on a blade's edge before it strikes, the beauty of moonlight just before it turns cold. They did not love. They collided. When Hyperion reached for Thea, it was not desire, it was gravity. And when she reached back, it was not tenderness, it was surrender to something inevitable. Light cannot help but touch what shines, and in their union, the world shuddered under their brilliance. Their children would not walk among beasts or men, they would rule the rhythm of time itself. Eos. Dawn, trembling and wild. Selene. The moon, ever watching. Helios. The sun, merciless and constant. Born not in pain, but in pressure, in the unbearable weight of being divine. But before them, before even their first cry, a darkness watched. Not Nyx. Not Erebus. Something older. The hush that follows light. The fear that follows beauty. Thea whispered names into the void, testing the sharpness of her power. She was more than radiance, she was the eyes of kings, the glint of treasure, the lure of gold and glory. Her voice could blind. Her silence could burn. And Hyperion, he did not speak. He blazed. Every word from him was an explosion. Every thought, a flare hurled into the face of fate. He did not kneel before time, he carved it open and bled light into it. He did not ask if the world needed the sun. He was the sun. And he would rise whether the world wanted him or not. When he raged, clouds blackened and fled. Mountains blistered. Rivers boiled. Gaia herself winced beneath his fury, but she did not speak, for even the earth does not argue with light when it comes to claim its throne. They say Thea softened him. They lie. She refined him, turned his raw fire into something crueler. She taught him patience, the horror of slow illumination. How to blind a man with gold before breaking his neck with heat. How to shine not for warmth, but for worship. Her light was not mercy, it was judgment. And in her silver hands, even purity became a blade. Their love? It was never gentle. It was not kisses in the dark. It was thunder under the skin. The kind of love that burned out forests. The kind that cracked the crust of the world. They did not build temples. They became them. And their children, oh, their children, Eos came first, wailing like a trumpet made of fire. Her arrival split the horizon, and night ran like prey before her. Her laughter? Lightning. Her sorrow? storm. She loved like a tidal wave and left nothing standing when she passed. No man could keep her. No god could chain her. She was morning's cruelty, promise without permanence. Selene followed, soft where her sister was sharp, but no less dangerous. She did not scorch. She watched. Her power was slow, patient, inescapable. She pulled on hearts the way she pulled on oceans. She wept silver, and her tears turned wolves feral. She kissed madness into lovers' dreams and never looked back. Her silence haunted kings. Her gaze shattered sanity. And in the cold, beautiful cage of her moonlight, nothing escaped unchanged. Last came Aelios, born in violence. He did not cry, he roared. The sky broke open to make room. His skin burned. His blood glowed. He took the sky like a crown and set it ablaze. He did not ask for permission. He never would. He flung himself into the heavens and dared the world to look away. No one could. Hyperion watched him rise and felt something not quite pride. Thea smiled, and the stars dimmed in fear. They did not raise their children. They unleashed them. But still, there were nights Hyperion stood at the edge of the world, his flame flickering, unsure. Not of his strength. Not of his dominion. But of the silence Thea kept when she looked past him, beyond the stars, into something else. Something coming. She knew what he didn't. That light attracts monsters. That the brighter one burns, the more shadows they summon. And though Hyperion stood taller than mountains, though Thea glittered with the secrets of sons yet to be born, they could not stop the future from approaching. They could not stop time from envying them. They could not stop the next generation from watching, waiting, or plotting. Still, for now, they shone. Unrepentant. Terrible. Beautiful. And the sky, torn open by their love, never healed. It only burned brighter. A silence falls over the edge of the world, so still it feels like even thought has stopped. The stars blink once, slow and mournful, and then, they listen. Something ancient stirs in the dark between them. Not a god. Not a monster. Something colder. Smarter. The first breath of knowing. And it whispers. A single name. Coeus. His presence does not crash like the sea or roar like the sky, it waits. The air thickens around him, and thoughts begin to ache. Time bends, warps, forgets its path. Eyes water without knowing why. Minds bend toward him as blades to the whetstone. There is no mercy in his stare, no kindness in the corners of his mouth. He is not cruel. He is clarity sharpened to a scream. He is the question without an answer, and he never forgets. His sister steps forward through the void, Phoebe, she who walks with light not seen, with prophecy humming like venom behind her teeth. Her silence is not passive. It devours. She walks beside him, not behind, and in the space between their shadows, madness finds form. They speak rarely. But when they do, the cosmos blinks, and things begin to end. It was she who saw it first, the shattering of the sky, the blood that would fall like stars from Uranus, the rise of the younger gods drunk with wrath. She said nothing. Not out of fear. Because it was already written. And when something is written in her voice, it becomes iron. They were twins not of body, but of thought. And thought, when made pure, is more terrifying than fire. In the halls of the Titans, where brute strength thundered and ambitions burned loud and bright, they were quiet. Watching. Always watching. While Kronos sharpened his scythe in the dark, it was Coeus who fed him whispers, surgical, cold, guiding. A push too subtle to be felt. And Phoebe? She held the echo of fate in her hands like thread, slicing and tying it with a calm no war could shake. They were not heroes. They were not villains. They were inevitability clothed in flesh. There are tales that say Coeus burned with madness once the war was lost, that in Tartarus he beat his head against the walls of eternity, trying to force a hole in time itself. But the truth is more terrifying. He smiled. Because he knew. He had always known. His defeat was not failure, it was prophecy fulfilled. And prophecy, that was Phoebe's game. She bore Leto. She birthed Asteria. And from her children came the sun, the moon, the starfall of gods that would one day rise beyond even Olympus. She was not just a seer, she was the womb of the future. But her joy never sang in her voice. Only certainty. And certainty, in her tone, could make even the fates look away. They touched nothing, and yet everything bent toward their weight. When other titans roared into war, their fists raised and teeth bared, Coeus and Phoebe stood still. Watching. Waiting. Not from cowardice, but from comprehension. Victory, they knew, was never about the now. It was always tomorrow's bones being arranged by today's fingers. And they were the ones who understood the pattern in the dust. When Rhea wept, hiding her son from the jaws of Kronos, it was Phoebe who turned her eyes away. Not because she approved, but because she had already seen his rise. She had already tasted the ash of titans in her breath. And she knew the names of their jailers before they were even born. She didn't try to stop it. She didn't have to. She was the silence in every heartbeat before a scream. And Coeus? He was the mind behind the chaos. He didn't rage. He dissected. Strategy poured from him like frost, choking, creeping, brilliant. Where others brought fire, he brought logic. Cruel. Unflinching. Necessary. Some say the stars were born from their thoughts. Others say the stars were warnings, signals in the night that something terrible had once walked here and may one day return. Their names are not worshipped. No temples hold their statues. But in the cracks between thoughts, those moments when a person knows something before they've learned it, feels something before it happens, that's when they speak. Through the cold. Through the hush. Through the uncanny breath of knowing that someone, somewhere, has already written this moment into the folds of fate. They were titans, yes. But not the kind that shatter mountains or rage against the heavens. They were the kind that whispered and made empires fall. There are those who dream of them still. Dreams without faces. Without warmth. Just eyes. Two sets, pale and endless, waiting in the dark behind thought. Watching as if memory itself had grown a spine and was quietly judging. Phoebe's voice comes like sleep paralysis, stillness you cannot move through. Coeus's voice cuts. He was the axis of heaven. She was the breath of inevitability. Together, they were the thought before the storm. And thought never dies. The stars were silent that night. Not a flicker. Not a whisper. Just cold, hanging orbs in a sky stretched taut with expectation. And in that stillness, so wide, so crushingly infinite, it was Crius who stood unmoving beneath the vault of the cosmos, the air around him humming with the quiet madness of something long denied its due. The heavens didn't speak. They stared. And he stared back. They had always ignored him. He was never the shining one, never crowned with fire or cloaked in prophecy. The others bore thunder and flame, light and gold. But Crius was the hinge. The axis. The place where power turned and no one noticed. And beside him, Eurybia's breath curled like storm wind in the dark. She did not walk, she carved paths in the mist with her bones. Her veins held the pulse of tides and crashing iron, and her gaze could freeze the marrow of any god. There was no mercy in her beauty. She was born from the sea, but there was nothing soft in her. They stood alone where no gods walked. Where the sky grew too high and the stars too old. There was a moment, brief, sharp, when the constellations blinked, as if afraid. Crius raised his hand. Not with grace. Not like a king. But like something awakening after being buried alive for 1,000 eternities. His fingers moved as if he had forgotten what motion meant. Every knuckle cracked like breaking stones. Each gesture carried weight, old, forgotten weight, the kind that bends galaxies. He was the titan of the heavenly axis, but no one remembered. The others warred and bled and howled, and he watched in silence. Held the skies turning. Held it steady. Held it alone. Eurybia touched his shoulder, and stars flickered violently. Her voice was oil and fire, ancient and sharp. "They will know your name," she said, "not as promise, but as law. Even if it must be carved in bone." The heavens trembled. The stars shuddered in their tracks. Together, they moved through the night like omens, too silent, too slow, too heavy with purpose. Crius had no crown, but he wore the scars of time itself. Eurybia had no throne, but the oceans tilted when she breathed. They did not speak love, they spoke war. They were not tenderness, they were necessity. They were overlooked because they chose to be. But even the most patient silence ends. He remembered when the sky tore open, when Uranus bled. He had not roared like Oceanus or shined like Hyperion. He had stood, calm and unblinking, watching as blood fell from the heavens and screamed into the earth. In that moment, he did not mourn. He did not move. But inside, something ancient had stirred. Not vengeance. Not grief. Something colder. An accounting. He would remember the look in Uranus' eyes when the sky was ripped from Gaia's skin. He would remember how the stars blinked in confusion, unsure who ruled them now. And he would wait. Always wait. Eurybia's fingers brushed his. There was power in that touch, violent, unspoken power. Her children were sea monsters, born with claws and teeth and hurricanes in their throats. She loved them. She loved him. But her love was not a kiss. It was a blade. Their power was not golden. It was the kind that rusts the soul. Beneath their feet, the earth cracked. Not because they willed it, but because it feared what might happen if it tried to hold them. The cosmos had always revolved, but now it began to spin faster. Off kilter. Tilted. As if sensing that the center it ignored had begun to move. Crius clenched his fist. The stars hiccuped. Eurybia's laugh echoed, not joyous, but cruel. A laugh that held storms between its teeth. "Let them worship the fire and light," she hissed, pacing like a predator with no leash. "Let them forget who holds the weight of the heavens." Every word she spoke turned the stars colder. They weren't part of myths sung in temples. They weren't whispered into lullabies. No statues, no hymns. But they had never needed worship. They had always been power without name. And now, they were tired of being silent. Crius tilted his head skyward. The constellations dared not move. Orion, silent. Cassiopeia, still. Even Helios, his nephew, the sun himself, paused in his burning chariot far beyond the rim of the night, unsure if it was safe to shine. He whispered, "It's time." And when he said it, the stars did not shimmer, they recoiled. Eurybia stepped forward, and lightning crackled across a sky that had no clouds. She raised both arms, and tide surged in distant lands. Ships sank in calm harbors. Whales screamed in the dark. She spoke one word. A name. Not a child's name. Not a god's. A force. The name of a storm no mortal had ever survived. The winds obeyed. Crius walked forward and the heavens buckled, like old bones cracking under forgotten strain. He wasn't fast. He wasn't loud. But with each step, the celestial axis groaned, as if it remembered that it was his to command. Stars wept. Nebulas flickered like failing hearts. And far, far away, the titans who thought themselves kings fell to tremor they could not name. Crius. The forgotten pivot. The hinge of all turning. The one who watched from the dark while others took the light. And now, the sky remembered him. Not as brother. Not as background. But as center. He turned. And the stars followed. The night was thick with silence, a suffocating void where even the whispers of the wind dared not intrude. In this oppressive stillness stood Iapetus, his former monolith against the obsidian sky. His eyes, twin voids reflecting the abyss, bore into the horizon as if challenging the cosmos itself. Beside him, Clymene moved with a grace that belied the tempest coiled within her. Her presence was the calm before the storm, the deceptive serenity that preludes chaos. They were the forgotten architects of fate, the silent weavers of destiny's loom. Iapetus, the embodiment of mortality's inexorable march, carried the weight of finitude upon his shoulders. His touch was a brand, searing the truth of life's ephemeral nature into the fabric of existence. Clymene, the muse of fame and infamy alike, whispered the names of the forgotten into the void, her voice a siren's call to the annals of history. Their union was not one of tender affection but of cosmic necessity. From their convergence sprang forth progeny who would etch their names into the bedrock of myth. Atlas, the bearer of heavens, condemned to an eternity of servitude. Prometheus, the firebringer, whose defiance would ignite the spark of human enlightenment. Epimetheus, the afterthought, whose folly would unleash Pandora's cursed gift upon mankind. Menoetius, the doomed, struck down for his hubris and cast into the abyss. Each child, a testament to their parents' paradoxical legacy. The weight of the sky, the gift of fire, the curse of hindsight, the price of arrogance, all threads woven into the tapestry of mortal existence. Iapetus and Clymene watched as their offspring danced upon the strings of fate, puppets to the whims of destiny. The air grew heavy with the scent of impending doom, a metallic tang that clung to the back of the throat. Iapetus clenched his fists, knuckles whitening as the tendons strained against the skin. He knew the role he played, the silent arbiter of life's fleeting nature. His was a thankless task, a burden borne without hope of respite. Clymene's laughter rang out, a brittle sound that shattered the night's stillness. It was a laugh devoid of mirth, laced with the bitterness of one who sings praises of the forgotten. Her eyes, pools of liquid night, shimmered with unshed tears. She reached out, her fingers brushing against Iapetus's arm, a fleeting connection between two beings bound by duty and despair. The ground beneath them trembled, a subtle reminder of the chaos that churned beneath the surface. They stood at the precipice of oblivion, guardians of a legacy that would outlive even the gods. Their names might fade, but their influence would echo through eternity, a haunting refrain in the symphony of existence. Iapetus turned to Clymene, his gaze locking onto hers. No words were exchanged, none were needed. In that moment, an understanding passed between them, a recognition of their roles as the unseen pillars upon which the mortal world was built. They were the shadows cast by the flames of their children's rebellion, the silent sentinels watching over a world that would never know their names. The first light of dawn crept over the horizon, banishing the darkness with its indifferent glow. Iapetus and Clymene stood together, their silhouettes etched against the burgeoning day. They would remain, unseen and unsung, the forgotten titans whose legacy was written not in the stars, but in the hearts of mortals who would never know their touch. The air was thick with an oppressive silence, the kind that presses against the skin and seeps into the bones. In the heart of this stillness stood Mnemosyne, her presence both commanding and haunting. Her eyes, deep wells of forgotten histories, held the weight of eons, reflecting the myriad tales etched into the fabric of time. She was not merely a goddess, she was the embodiment of memory itself, the keeper of every whispered secret and every thunderous revelation. Born of Uranus and Gaia, Mnemosyne was a titan whose very essence was interwoven with the threads of existence. Her siblings, formidable in their own rights, paled before the magnitude of her dominion. For what is power without remembrance? What is legacy without the echo of memory to carry it through the ages? She bore witness to the rise and fall of empires, the birth and death of stars, holding each moment with unwavering fidelity. It was during a time when the cosmos itself seemed to hold its breath that Mnemosyne and Zeus, the sovereign of the heavens, came together. For 9 consecutive nights, their union defied the very order of the universe, a convergence of might and memory. From this profound communion emerged the Muses, 9 daughters, each a beacon of artistic and intellectual brilliance. Calliope, Clio, Euterpe, Erato, Melpomene, Polyhymnia, Terpsichore, Thalia, and Urania, each one a testament to the boundless depths of human creativity and endeavor. The Muses were not mere figments of inspiration, they were the lifeblood of art, the soul of science, the breath of literature. They whispered into the ears of poets, guided the hands of sculptors, ignited the minds of philosophers. Yet, at the core of their divine essence was their mother, Mnemosyne. Without memory, there is no art, no music, no history, only a void where once thrived the chronicles of existence. In the shadowed realms of Hades, where souls wandered in forgetful oblivion, Mnemosyne's presence was a beacon of hope. Near the river Lethe, whose waters erased the memories of those who drank, there existed a sacred pool, Mnemosyne's own. Those initiated into the Orphic mystery sought this pool, yearning to drink from its depths and reclaim the memories of their past lives. To remember was to transcend the cycle of rebirth, to attain a state of divine enlightenment. Yet, despite her monumental significance, Mnemosyne's worship was a whisper compared to the reverberating hymns sung for other deities. Statues of her stood in the shadows of grand temples, her name invoked in hushed tones by those who understood the gravity of remembrance. In the sanctuaries of Asclepius, supplicants would offer prayers to Mnemosyne, beseeching her to grant them the clarity to recall visions received during sacred rituals. Her legacy, though often overlooked, was indelible. In the sanctuaries of Mount Helicon and the oracular shrine of Trophonius, her essence permeated the very stones. The ancients knew that to seek wisdom, one must first seek memory, for without the past, the present is unanchored, and the future, unfathomable. Mnemosyne's influence extended beyond the tangible. She was the silent force behind every epic recited, every history chronicled, every song composed. In the grand tapestry of existence, she was the weaver, ensuring that no thread was lost, no matter how fine. Her daughters, the Muses, carried forth her essence, infusing the world with the beauty of remembered thought and emotion. In the quiet moments, when the world seems to pause, one can almost hear the faint strains of a distant melody, feel the brush of an old memory resurfacing. That is Mnemosyne, ever present, ever watchful, ensuring that the stories of old are never truly forgotten, but live on, echoing through the corridors of time. In the hushed stillness of Mount Olympus, where the air itself seemed to pause in reverence, she stood, a figure of unwavering resolve and piercing clarity. The Miss, the embodiment of divine law and order, her presence both serene and formidable, cast an aura that demanded both awe and introspection. Her eyes, deep and unyielding, held the weight of cosmic balance, reflecting the immutable truths that govern both gods and mortals. Born of Gaia and Uranus, the Miss was a titan whose essence was interwoven with the very fabric of existence. Unlike her kin who reveled in chaos and ambition, she was the personification of justice, a beacon of order amidst the tumultuous whims of divinity. Her voice, calm yet commanding, resonated through the halls of Olympus, a constant reminder that even the mightiest were bound by the threads of fate and righteousness. Seated beside Zeus, the sovereign of the heavens, the Miss was not merely an advisor but the moral compass that steered the course of divine decree. Her counsel was sought in moments of celestial deliberation, her wisdom a guiding light in the murky waters of godly disputes. It was she who reminded the deities of their duties, of the sacred laws that even they could not transgress without consequence. From her union with Zeus, the Miss bore daughters who embodied the very principles she upheld. The Houri, Eunomia, law, Dike, justice, and Irene, peace, were manifestations of societal harmony, each playing a pivotal role in maintaining the equilibrium of the world. The Moirai, or Fates, Clotho, Lachesis, and Atropos, spun, measured, and cut the threads of life, their inexorable decisions echoing the impartiality of their mother. Yet, Themis's influence extended beyond the confines of Olympus. She was intrinsically linked to the Oracle of Delphi, a sacred site where mortals sought glimpses of destiny. It was whispered that the Miss herself once presided over this hallowed ground, her prophetic abilities illuminating the paths of those who dared to seek the truth. Her words, though often cryptic, bore the weight of inevitability, a testament to her profound connection with the cosmic order. In art and sculpture, the Miss was often depicted with scales in one hand and a sword in the other, symbols of balance and enforcement. The blindfold that sometimes covered her eyes was not a sign of ignorance but of impartiality, a declaration that justice sees no favor, knows no bias. Her image served as a stark reminder that law and order were not mere constructs but sacred tenets that held the very universe together. But beneath her composed exterior lay a force that was both nurturing and unyielding. She understood the complexities of existence, the delicate dance between free will and destiny. Her judgments were not born of cold detachment but of profound empathy, a deep understanding of the struggles that plague both gods and men. Yet, she remained steadfast, unwavering in her duty to uphold the principles that ensured harmony and balance. Themis's legacy was not one of ground conquests or fiery battles but of the silent, enduring power of justice and order. She was the unseen hand that guided the stars in their courses, the whispering wind that reminded kings of their mortality, the quiet voice that urged compassion and fairness in the hearts of mortals. Her influence was subtle yet omnipresent, a gentle yet firm reminder that without law, without order, existence would spiral into chaos. In the grand tapestry of mythology, where tales of heroism and betrayal abound, the myth stood apart, a beacon of unwavering principle, a guardian of the sacred balance. Her story was not one of spectacle but of substance, a testament to the enduring power of justice and the indomitable spirit of order. And though the ages have passed, her presence lingers, an eternal sentinel watching over the delicate equilibrium of all things. The sky was a canvas of endless blue, untainted by storm or shadow. The earth, a verdant expanse where rivers meandered with purpose, and forests whispered secrets to the wind. In this realm of harmony, mortals knew no pain, no toil, no sorrow. It was an era where the very essence of existence pulsed with unbridled joy and serenity. This was the Golden Age, a time when the Titans reigned supreme over the cosmos, and Cronus sat upon the throne of the universe. Born of Gaia and Uranus, the Titans were primordial deities, embodiments of the natural forces that shaped the world. Among them, Cronus emerged as the harbinger of a new order. With a sickle forged from the depths of his mother's anguish, he rose against his father, severing the heavens from the earth in a single, irrevocable act. The cosmos trembled as Uranus's blood cascaded upon the earth, giving birth to beings of power and terror. From the severed flesh, the goddess Aphrodite emerged, a testament to the profound consequences of Cronus's audacity. One with Uranus dethroned, Cronus ascended, ushering in an epoch of unparalleled peace and prosperity. Mortals, crafted by the hands of the divine, roamed a world where the earth yielded its bounty without demand. There was no need for labor, the land flourished effortlessly, and humanity thrived in innocence and abundance. It was a time when the lion lay with the lamb, and the concept of war was as distant as the stars. Yet, beneath this veneer of tranquility, shadows lurked. Cronus, despite his dominion, was haunted by a prophecy that foretold his downfall at the hands of his own offspring. Fear gnawed at his godly heart, driving him to a desperate act of self-preservation. As each child was born, Hestia, Demeter, Hera, Hades, Poseidon, he swallowed them whole, condemning them to a living death within his own being. The weight of his trepidation eclipsed the love a father might hold, and the Golden Age bore witness to a darkness that festered within its king. Rhea, his sister and consort, wept silent tears as her children were taken from her. The anguish of a mother bereft of her progeny is a sorrow that reverberates through the annals of time. Determined to save her youngest, she devised a ruse that would alter the course of destiny. Upon the birth of Zeus, she concealed him in the cavernous embrace of Mount Ida, entrusting him to the nurturing care of nymphs and the stalwart guardianship of the Curetes. In his place, she presented Cronus with a stone swathed in swaddling cloth. Unknowing, he consumed the decoy, believing he had thwarted fate once more. Time, relentless and unyielding, saw Zeus mature into a deity of formidable might and resolve. The whispers of destiny grew louder, and the cosmos held its breath as the stage was set for an upheaval that would shake the very foundations of existence. With cunning and courage, Zeus confronted his father, compelling him to regurgitate his siblings. One by one, they emerged, reborn and resolute, their eyes alight with the fire of retribution. The heavens roared as the Titanomachy commenced, a cataclysmic war that pitted the old gods against the new, a struggle for supremacy that would etch its scars upon the universe. For the Golden Age, once a symphony of harmony, now echoed with the cacophony of clashing titans and burgeoning deities. The earth quaked beneath their fury, oceans churned with the wrath of their conflict, and the skies were alight with the tempest of their powers. The very fabric of reality seemed poised on the precipice of unraveling. Amidst this turmoil, mortals cowered, their idyllic existence shattered by forces beyond their comprehension. The innocence of the Golden Age was lost, replaced by the stark realization of the capricious nature of divinity. They bore witness to the fallibility of their creators, understanding that even gods are not immune to fear, jealousy, and the insatiable thirst for power. As the dust settled and the echoes of battle faded into the annals of history, the Titans were vanquished, cast into the abyss of Tartarus, their reign extinguished. Zeus ascended the throne, heralding a new era, the age of the Olympians. Yet, the memory of the Golden Age lingered, a haunting reminder of a time when paradise was within grasp, only to be torn asunder by the very beings who had crafted it. The tale of the Golden Age is not merely a chronicle of peace and prosperity, but a poignant narrative of the impermanence of utopia, the fragility of harmony, and the inexorable march of fate. It serves as a testament to the duality of existence, where light and shadow coalesce, and where even the most divine are susceptible to the very emotions that define humanity. In the hushed stillness of a moonless night, the horizon dissolves into an abyss, and the air grows thick with the scent of brine. A distant, rhythmic pulse resonates through the darkness, a heartbeat ancient and unyielding. This is the breath of Oceanus, the primordial titan whose vast, serpentine form encircles the world in an eternal embrace. His waters, both cradle and abyss, shimmer with the memories of creation itself. Born of Uranus and Gaia, Oceanus is the eldest of the Titans, a being whose essence is the very lifeblood of the earth. His presence is not merely that of a god, but of the world's own circulatory system, veins of liquid silver coursing through the body of existence. With his sister consort, Tessis, Oceanus fathers a legion of offspring, 3,000 daughters, the Oceanids, and an equal number of sons, the Potamoi. Each child embodies a river, a stream, a spring, each a vital thread in the intricate tapestry of life. The Oceanids, ethereal nymphs of haunting beauty, weave through the world like whispers. They are the protectors of the earth's secret wells and hidden springs, their laughter mingling with the babble of brooks, their tears swelling the tides. They dance in the mist of waterfalls, their presence felt but seldom seen, ephemeral as the morning dew. The Potamoi, their brothers, are the river gods, each embodying the spirit of a mighty watercourse. They carve the earth with relentless determination, their currents both nurturing and destructive. Among them, Achelous, the largest river of Greece, whose sinuous path tells tales of love and loss, Alpheus, who, consumed by desire, pursues the nymph Arethusa beneath the waves, and Scamander, who rages against the desecration of his waters during the Trojan War. One yet, Oceanus himself remains aloof from the squabbles of gods and men. He does not take sides in the wars that rend the heavens and the earth. His realm is one of neutrality, a boundary that both separates and connects. Even as the Olympians rise and the Titans fall, Oceanus endures, his currents indifferent to the transient struggles of those who dwell upon his shores. But do not mistake his detachment for impotence. The power of Oceanus is immeasurable, his depths unfathomable. He is the origin from which all waters flow, the source to which they inevitably return. His tides dictate the rhythms of the world, a pulse that governs the very essence of life. To offend Oceanus is to invite a deluge, a cleansing flood that spares neither king nor commoner. In the quiet moments before dawn, when the world holds its breath, listen closely. Hear the susurrus of waves upon the shore, the distant murmur of a meandering stream. These are the voices of Oceanus and his progeny, a chorus that sings the song of creation, destruction, and rebirth. They are the eternal witnesses, the ever-present force that shapes the destiny of all who walk upon the earth. And as the first light of day breaks upon the horizon, gilding the waters with gold, remember this: Oceanus is not merely a river, nor just a god. He is the boundary and the bridge, the beginning and the end. His domain is the world itself, and his legacy flows through the veins of every living thing. In his embrace, we are born; in his depths, we find our end. In the hushed stillness before dawn, a fragile glow edges the horizon, a whisper of light that heralds the arrival of Eos. She emerges, draped in robes of saffron and rose, her delicate fingers parting the veil of night. The air quivers with anticipation as she ascends, her presence a tender promise of the day to come. But beneath her serene beauty lies an insatiable yearning, a restless desire that propels her ceaselessly forward. She is the dawn, ever fleeting, ever chasing the horizon, yet never quite reaching the solace she seeks. As Eos retreats, her brother Helios takes the stage, a blazing charioteer commanding steeds of fire. He erupts from the east, his golden hair ablaze, eyes of molten gold surveying the world below. The earth recoils and rejoices in his presence, shadows banished, colors awakened. His chariot races across the sky, a relentless march from dawn to dusk. Yet, for all his brilliance, there is a weight upon Helios, a burden of omniscience, for nothing escapes his gaze. He sees the sins and virtues of mortals, the betrayals and loyalties, the love and the loss. And with each passing day, the weight grows heavier, a searing brand upon his radiant soul. As the sun's fierce blaze softens, a silver luminescence rises in the east. Selene, the enigmatic moon, ascends her nocturnal throne. Her alabaster skin glows with an ethereal light, dark tresses cascading like the night itself. She traverses the heavens in her chariot drawn by snow-white steeds, a silent guardian of the night's mysteries. But within her luminescence lies a melancholy, a longing that ebbs and flows like the tide she governs. She watches over sleeping lovers and lonely wanderers, her gentle light a balm and a reminder of dreams unfulfilled. Born of the Titans Hyperion and Thea, these three siblings embody the celestial dance of day, night, and the delicate moments in between. Their existence is a cycle of relentless pursuit and retreat, an eternal ballet that dictates the rhythm of the cosmos. Yet, within their divine roles lies a profound solitude, an isolation born of their cosmic duties. Eos's endless chase of the sun, Helios's unblinking witness of the world's deeds, Selene's solitary vigil in the night sky, all are bound by destinies they did not choose, yet cannot escape. Their stories intertwine with those of mortals, brief encounters that leave indelible marks upon the tapestry of existence. Eos, with her insatiable desire, has loved and lost many, her heart forever aching with the sting of ephemeral passions. Helios, though distant, has felt the pang of paternal grief, his children facing fates he could not prevent. Selene, enamored with the mortal Endymion, watches over his eternal slumber, her love as constant and unending as her nightly journey across the sky. In their luminous arcs, they illuminate the human condition, the relentless pursuit of desire, the burden of knowledge, the ache of unattainable love. They are reflections of our own yearnings and struggles, celestial beings who, despite their divinity, embody the essence of mortal experience. And as they traverse the heavens, their light reaches down, touching the hearts of those who dare to look up and dream. The sky loomed heavy, an oppressive dome pressing down upon the earth. At the edge of existence, where the world met the heavens, a solitary figure stood, Atlas, son of Iapetus. His muscles, carved from the very stone he stood upon, strained under an unimaginable burden. With arms outstretched and legs braced, he bore the weight of the celestial spheres upon his shoulders, a punishment decreed by Zeus for his defiance during the Titanomachy. Each day was an eternity. The sun's scorching rays seared his skin, while the night's chill gnawed at his bones. Yet, Atlas stood unyielding, his spirit unbroken despite the relentless torment. The heavens above showed no mercy, their vast expanse a constant reminder of his eternal servitude. Far to the east, chained to the desolate crags of the Caucasus Mountains, another son of Iapetus endured his own torment. Prometheus, the forethinker, the benefactor of mankind, was bound by unbreakable chains, his body splayed against the unforgiving rock. Each morning, as the first light of dawn painted the sky, a monstrous eagle descended upon him. Its talons, sharp as daggers, tore into his flesh, rending his abdomen to feast upon his liver. Agony consumed him, yet he did not cry out. He clenched his jaw, eyes burning with defiance, as the bird devoured his essence. By nightfall, his wounds would heal, only for the torment to begin anew with the coming dawn, a perpetual cycle of suffering, a punishment from Zeus for gifting fire to humanity. 8 the brothers, though separated by vast distances, were bound by their lineage and their defiance against the Olympian order. Atlas, the bearer of the heavens, and Prometheus, the chained visionary, each bore the consequences of their choices. Their father, Iapetus, had sired 4 sons, Atlas, Prometheus, Epimetheus, and Menoetius. Each carved their own path, but it was Atlas and Prometheus whose fates became legends etched into the fabric of time. Atlas had stood with the Titans during the Great War against the Olympians. His strength was unparalleled, his leadership vital in the battles that shook the very foundations of the cosmos. But the Titans fell, and Zeus, in his wrath, singled out Atlas for a punishment befitting his might. He was condemned to hold up the sky, ensuring that the heavens and earth would remain forever apart. Prometheus, in contrast, had sided with the Olympians during the war, his foresight guiding his decisions. Yet, it was his compassion for humanity that led to his downfall. He saw the plight of mortals, their fragility, their suffering, and chose to gift them fire, a divine essence that would elevate them, granting them warmth, protection, and the spark of civilization. This act of rebellion enraged Zeus, who viewed it as a betrayal. Thus, Prometheus was bound to the mountain, his punishment a cruel testament to the price of defiance. 8. The wind howled through the mountains, carrying with it the scent of rain and the whispers of the past. Prometheus, despite his torment, found solace in his unyielding spirit. He had defied a god for the sake of mortals, and though his body suffered, his mind remained sharp, his will unbroken. He knew that one day, a savior would come, a hero born of man and God, who would break his chains and end his suffering. Until that day, he endured, a beacon of resilience against the tyranny of the divine. Atlas, too, found moments of reprieve amidst his suffering. Legend spoke of a time when the great hero Heracles approached him, seeking assistance in retrieving the golden apples of the Hesperides. Atlas saw an opportunity, a chance to be free, if only for a moment. He agreed to help, on the condition that Heracles would bear the heavens in his stead. With the weight lifted, Atlas felt a fleeting sense of liberation, his muscles unburdened, his spirit momentarily light. But freedom was not his to claim, and the weight of the cosmos soon returned to his shoulders, a reminder of his eternal penance. The tales of Atlas and Prometheus serve as harrowing reminders of the cost of defiance and the enduring strength of the spirit. Bound by blood and fate, the sons of Iapetus carved their names into the annals of history, their struggles echoing through time, their legends immortalized in the stars and the stones. A hush fell over the cosmos, an eerie silence that seemed to stretch across the heavens and the earth. The air was thick with anticipation, as if the universe itself held its breath, awaiting an inevitable storm. From the depths of the earth, a tremor began, a subtle, almost imperceptible quiver that rapidly escalated into a violent upheaval. The ground split open, and from its gaping maw emerged beings of terrifying grandeur and wrathful purpose, the Gigantes, the colossal offspring of Gaia, the Earth Mother. Born from her very essence, they were a manifestation of her simmering rage and unyielding desire for vengeance against the Olympian gods who had usurped the primordial order. These giants were not mere brutes, they embodied the raw, untamed forces of nature. Each step they took sent shockwaves through the land, their voices a cacophony that echoed through the mountains and valleys. Their eyes burned with a fiery hatred, fixated on the gleaming peaks of Mount Olympus, where the new gods reigned supreme. The Gigantes' emergence was not a mere act of rebellion, it was a declaration of war, a testament to Gaia's resolve to reclaim the dominion that had been wrested from her kin. In the celestial realm, Zeus, the sovereign of the gods, sensed the disturbance that rippled through the fabric of existence. His gaze turned toward the horizon, where dark clouds gathered, heralding the approach of a cataclysmic confrontation. The air crackled with tension as the Olympians assembled, their expressions a mixture of determination and apprehension. They knew that the battle ahead would not be easily won, for the Gigantes were formidable adversaries, born of the Earth's very essence and fueled by a primal fury that knew no bounds. As the Gigantes advanced, the heavens themselves seemed to recoil. The sun dimmed, casting an ominous shadow over the world, while the winds howled in mournful anticipation. The earth trembled beneath the weight of impending doom, as if mourning the bloodshed that was to come. The stage was set for a confrontation that would shake the foundations of existence, a battle that would pit the old gods against the new in a struggle for ultimate supremacy. The first clash was deafening, a thunderous collision of divine might and primordial rage. Ars, the god of war, met the charge of the Gigantes head-on, his spear gleaming as it struck true, yet barely slowing the onslaught. Athena, with her strategic brilliance, wove through the chaos, her shield deflecting blows that could shatter mountains. Arrows rained from Artemis's bow, each finding its mark, yet the Gigantes pressed on, their resilience seemingly boundless. Amidst the fray, the earth itself rebelled. Mountains crumbled, rivers boiled, and forests ignited, as if Gaia's very soul was poured into her progeny. The sky darkened further as storm clouds roiled, thunder and lightning joining the symphony of destruction. The boundaries between the elements blurred, creating a maelstrom of chaos that threatened to consume all. Zeus, standing at the heart of the tempest, knew that the tide must be turned. The prophecy echoed in his mind, only with the aid of a mortal could the Gigantes be defeated. His thoughts raced to Heracles, the demigod whose strength was unparalleled, a bridge between the divine and the human. But time was a luxury they did not possess, and the path to Heracles was fraught with peril. In a desperate bid, Zeus commanded Eos, the dawn, Selene, the moon, and Helios, the sun, to withdraw their light, plunging the world into an unnatural darkness. Under this veil, he sought the elusive herb that would render the Gigantes invincible, a secret Gaia herself yearned to exploit. With relentless determination, Zeus scoured the shadowed lands, seizing the potent flora before it could fall into enemy hands. As the battle raged on, the arrival of Heracles infused the Olympians with renewed vigor. His arrows, dipped in the venom of the Hydra, found their marks, felling the Gigantes with lethal precision. One by one, the giants succumbed, their colossal forms crashing to the earth, causing tremors that resonated through the ages. The tide had turned, but the cost was immeasurable, the scars of the conflict etched into the very landscape of the world. In the aftermath, a somber silence enveloped the battlefield. The once mighty Gigantes lay defeated, their rebellion quashed, but the victory felt hollow. Gaia's anguish was palpable, her sorrow woven into the fabric of existence. The Olympians had secured their dominion, but the echoes of the Gigantomachy would reverberate through eternity, a haunting reminder of the delicate balance between order and chaos, and the perpetual struggle for power that defines the cosmos. The stars blinked out one by one. It began not with thunder or fire, but with silence so thick it seemed to choke the breath of the sky. The wind stopped. The sea stilled. Even time itself seemed to hesitate, holding back as if afraid to witness what was about to unfold. And in the heart of that stillness, a voice rose, not from lips, but from the bones of the world. A whisper. A warning. A prophecy. He will be overthrown by his own son. Cronos froze where he stood, his golden hand gripped tight around the curve of the sickle still wet with the blood of Uranus. The Skyfather's cries were not yet gone from the air, but the terror rising in Cronos' chest swallowed everything else. He had just become king, just torn power from the heavens and crushed it into his own hands. But already it was slipping. Already, something in the earth, in the future, in the voice of fate itself, was reaching toward him with cold fingers. And that voice would not die. It followed him through every shadowed hall of Mount Arthres. It crept through the laughter of his brothers, through the sighs of his sister-wife Rhea, through the screams of childbirth. Every time she bore him a child, the world seemed to tilt, like it remembered something he wanted to forget. Every cry of a newborn god sent a ripple through the throne beneath him, as though the very rock of his kingdom recoiled from the sound. So he swallowed them. One by one. He did it with his own hands. He pressed their tiny bodies between his teeth and let their screams bleed into his throat. Hestia. Demeter. Hera. Hades. Poseidon. Each one a flicker of divine flame extinguished before it could grow, smothered in the dark, buried in the prison of their father's belly. He told himself it was necessary. He told himself it was mercy. But nothing in the sky sang for him anymore. The stars turned their faces. The sun passed over him without warmth. The earth trembled when he walked. And Rhea bled behind her smile. She watched her children disappear. She felt them die inside her, crushed beneath the weight of Cronos' fear. And still she lay with him, still she pretended to obey, though something in her eyes no longer blinked. Her silence was not weakness. It was thunder waiting. Then came the sixth. Zeus. She birthed him in secret, in a cave draped in shadows and stone, and wrapped the newborn god in the folds of the sky itself. In his place, she gave Cronos a stone swaddled in cloth, still warm from her skin, still slick with the pain of labor. Cronos devoured it, teeth cracking against the weight of false hope, and felt the silence return. But this time, it was not peace. It was dread. For the prophecy still sang. Louder now. Stronger. More certain. Your son will destroy you." And Kronos, mighty as he was, could not rest. Not on his throne. Not in the sky. Not in the arms of his wife. Every night he dreamed of blood pouring from his mouth. Every morning he woke with his hands clutched around his throat, as if the hand of fate were already tightening. He ruled with suspicion. With cruelty. With silence. His kingdom was one of fear, not loyalty. And beneath the mountain, far from his gaze, Zeus grew. Lightning danced in his veins before he could speak. The air sang to him. The storms whispered his name. And Kronos, blind in his desperation, did not see the hunger building beneath his own feet. When the day came, when the sky cracked and the cave that had hidden the god split open, there was no more time for hope. No more stones to swallow. No more wounds to empty. Zeus rose like vengeance carved from the storm, his voice loud enough to shake the bones of his father's spine. Kronos, king of the Titans, stood frozen before the boy he'd tried to kill before birth. And he saw in that face the faces of every child he'd eaten. Every scream. Every crushed breath. They looked back at him now with eyes made of thunder. The battle that followed was not clean. Kronos did not fall in a single blow. He fought with the madness of a god who had swallowed his own bloodline. He wielded fear like a weapon. And when Zeus finally struck him down, it was not with triumph, but with rage and grief and fury and flame. The stone came up first, the lie. Then the 5 he had swallowed. One by one, they spilled from his gut, no longer children, but gods, burning with fury and betrayal. Their eyes locked on Kronos as they stepped from his body like shadows cut loose from the past. They did not thank Zeus. They did not celebrate. They had been born into death, and death had shaped them. Hera's eyes were colder than marble. Hades' silence echoed louder than screams. Poseidon's fists were clenched around waves. Demeter did not blink. Hestia's breath steamed like smoke. They had all died once. And Kronos, he had felt none of it. Now he would. Zeus did not kill him. That would have been mercy. Instead, Kronos was cast into Tartarus, into the pit he had once ruled above. And as the blackness closed around him, he finally understood the voice he had heard all those years ago. The prophecy was not just fate. It was a curse. Not just a warning. A judgment. He had not been undone by treachery, nor by war, nor by chaos. He had been undone by the one thing he could not control. His own fear. And still, somewhere in the dark, that whisper lives on. The voice that warned him, the voice that crawled beneath his skin, now waits beneath the world, calling to the next tyrant, the next king, the next father who thinks he can silence the cries of the future with blood. That voice will always be waiting. It is the sound of fate sharpening its teeth. The sky didn't scream, it held its breath. Beneath it, Rhea stood soaked in afterbirth and blood, her hands trembling as she cradled the warm, wriggling weight of her newborn son. The 6th. The one she refused to surrender. His cries were weak but alive, a defiant echo in a world ruled by silence and swallowed gods. Her chest rose with panic and awe. She could feel Kronos' presence even from miles away, his hunger stretching across the land like a hand of iron, searching, reaching, ready to devour once more. She didn't blink. She couldn't afford to. Her fingers moved fast, bundling the stone in linen, still slick with goat's milk and her own tears, wrapping it as if it were flesh and bone. She had done this before. Too many times. But this time, the lie beat harder in her chest than the truth ever had. She kissed her son once, too fast, too hard, and handed him into the arms of the earth. The cave swallowed him whole. Not to kill, but to keep. And the stone? She gave it to Kronos. He tore through the linen with the frenzy of a beast cornered by fate, and swallowed without question. A stone dressed as salvation. A trick dressed as sacrifice. He didn't taste the difference. He didn't care. But Rhea did. She stood there as he turned away, as he wiped his mouth with hands that had murdered heaven, and she did not move. Her arms were empty. Her heart full of fire. The cave was cold. Cold enough to bite, cold enough to kill, but the boy lived. Nursed by the divine goat Amalthea, rocked to sleep by the curettes whose blades clashed and clanged to silence his cries. And he grew. The years didn't pass, they seethed. Lightning took root in his blood, thunder in his breath. He laughed like a storm and dreamed of vengeance without ever knowing why. Until he knew. Until Rhea came to him in shadows, her voice shaking like a dying star. She told him what had been taken. What had been devoured. What had been lost. And Zeus, he did not flinch. He stood, taller than the stone walls around him, his eyes gold with fire, and he chose war. But war does not come with fanfare. It crawls first. He poured poison into Kronos' cup, sweet and thick, made from herbs that grew in the cracks of forgotten graves. The old king drank and choked, his body rebelling, and then, screams. Not his own. 5 screams, tearing through his throat, gods born again in bile and agony. And they rose. Poseidon with the sea still dripping from his bones. Hades with death stitched beneath his fingernails. Hera, Hestia, Demeter, no longer children, but wrath made flesh. The sky cracked. The mountain groaned. And the war began. 10 years. 10 years of blood boiling from the ground, of mountains torn apart by fury, of skies blackened by smoke and hatred. The Titans, massive and merciless, roared down from R3s like gods made of stone and fire. Their eyes burned with betrayal. Their fists shattered valleys. Krios, Hyperion, Iapetus, Coeus, each a monument to old power, each a tower of rage. But the gods did not kneel. Zeus hurled lightning until his hands bled. Poseidon carved oceans from the earth and used them like whips. Hades sank whole battalions into the ground and swallowed them without blinking. The war was not fought with soldiers, it was fought with worlds. Screams replaced birdsong. Ash replaced snow. The wind forgot how to blow. Gaia herself wept. Her sons were tearing each other apart, her fields drowning in ichor. She had given birth to both. She had given everything. And now she could only watch as her womb was ripped open again and again with every clash of thunder and steel. On the plains of Thessaly, the Titans fell like trees struck by fire. Atlas roared as he held up the sky, cursed by prophecy and pity to bear the weight of heaven. Prometheus turned his back on his own blood, choosing justice over loyalty, chains over silence. And Kronos met his end not with pride, but with a look in his eyes that whispered he had seen this death before, every night, in the dark, when the voice of prophecy curled around his dreams and made his bones scream. Zeus did not grant him dignity. He struck him down with lightning, again and again, until even the clouds turned black from the violence of it. The screams didn't stop when Kronos fell. They echoed from the throats of his brothers, of the Titans who fought with no more breath, only fury. They were hurled into Tartarus, one by one, bound in chains made from night and sealed behind doors that only time could rust. But the war was not clean. It left scars that no fire could cauterize. The gods stood in victory, yes, but they did not cheer. They stood among the ruins of a world burned by its own birth, panting, trembling, barely able to hold their new thrones. They had won, but at what cost? The stars above were silent. The ground beneath them shook like it remembered the screams. And far below, Kronos did not die. He waited. Not for freedom. Not for forgiveness. But for the day the cycle would begin again. Because sons always rise. And fathers always fall. The sky held its breath. Beneath its vast stillness, Prometheus stood, his silhouette etched against the dying light. The battlefield lay silent, strewn with the remnants of a war that had torn the heavens asunder. The air was thick with the scent of ash and blood, a testament to the fury that had raged between kin. He had chosen this path, siding with Zeus against his own blood, foreseeing the fall of the Titans. Yet, as he gazed upon the desolation, a hollow ache settled in his chest. Victory had come at a price, and the weight of betrayal pressed heavily upon him. The Miss, the embodiment of divine order, stood beside him. Her eyes, once filled with the clarity of justice, now reflected the turmoil of a world unmoored. She had lent her wisdom to Zeus, guiding him in the overthrow of the old regime. But as the dust settled, she questioned the righteousness of their cause. The lines between order and chaos had blurred, and the new gods bore the same hunger for power as those they had dethroned. In the depths of Tartarus, the defeated Titans languished. The prison, a chasm beneath the earth, was a place of unending torment. Tisiphone, one of the Erinyes, stood guard, her whip ever ready to lash out at any sign of rebellion. The walls echoed with the groans of the imprisoned, a symphony of suffering that would never cease. Prometheus knew that his actions had led to this. He had betrayed his kin, believing in a future shaped by justice and wisdom. But now, he saw the cycle repeating. The new gods, born of rebellion, were not immune to the corruption of power. He had given fire to humanity, a gift meant to elevate them, but it had also brought destruction. His foresight had failed him, and the weight of his choices bore down upon him. The Miss, too, felt the burden of her decisions. She had upheld the law, believing in the sanctity of order. But the law had become a tool of oppression, wielded by those who sought to maintain their dominance. She had guided Zeus, hoping to establish a reign of justice, but now questioned whether true justice could ever be achieved through force. As the new order solidified, Prometheus found himself at odds with Zeus. He had defied the king of gods by giving fire to humanity, an act of compassion that was met with wrath. Zeus, fearing the potential of mankind, had ordered Prometheus's punishment. Chained to a rock, he endured the daily torment of an eagle devouring his liver, only for it to regenerate each night. An eternal cycle of suffering, a testament to the consequences of defiance. The Miss, disillusioned, withdrew from the affairs of gods and men. Her voice, once a guiding force, fell silent. She watched as the world continued to spin, the same patterns repeating, the same mistakes made. Her heart ached for the ideals she once held dear, now tarnished by the reality of power and ambition. In the shadows of Tartarus, the Titans plotted. Their spirits unbroken, they whispered of vengeance, of reclaiming their place in the cosmos. The cycle of rebellion and retribution was far from over. The seeds of discord had been sown, and it was only a matter of time before they bore fruit. Prometheus, bound and suffering, held on to hope. He believed in humanity's potential, in their capacity for growth and understanding. His sacrifice was not in vain. From his torment, a new era would emerge, one where the lessons of the past could guide the future. But the path would be fraught with challenges, and the shadows of the past would always loom. The Miss, in her solitude, pondered the nature of justice. She realized that true justice could not be imposed from above, but must be cultivated within. It required empathy, understanding, and a willingness to confront one's own flaws. She vowed to watch over humanity, to guide them subtly, hoping that they would learn from the mistakes of the gods. The world turned, the gods ruled, and humanity struggled. But in the hearts of mortals, the fire of Prometheus burned bright. A symbol of defiance, of hope, and of the enduring quest for knowledge and freedom. And as long as that fire burned, the legacy of Prometheus and the Miss would live on. The wind stilled, and the sea held its breath. From the silence, a single cry rose, the sound not of pain, but of memory. It echoed across the waves, a lament from the daughters of the endless river, the Oceanids. Born of Oceanus and Tessis, they were the nymphs of the world's waters, guardians of springs and rivers, and keepers of youth. Among them, Metis, the embodiment of wisdom, once guided the gods with her counsel. She was the first wife of Zeus, and mother of Athena, born from Zeus's head after he swallowed Metis to prevent a prophecy. Styx, the eldest, became the personification of the underworld's river, her name invoked in solemn oaths. Doris, mother of the Nereids, nurtured the sea's bounty. Each Oceanid bore a name reflecting her essence, Tyche for fortune, Plauto for wealth, Igia for knowledge. Their presence was felt across the world, from the nurturing of young gods to the guidance of heroes. They were companions of Persephone, present during her abduction by Hades. Artemis, the huntress, chose 60 Oceanids as her handmaidens, their purity and grace unmatched. Yet, their stories are whispers in the annals of myth, overshadowed by the tales of gods and heroes. Their legacy endures in the murmurs of brooks, the rush of rivers, and the stillness of ponds. They are the silent witnesses to the world's ever-changing face, their essence woven into the fabric of nature. Above, the night sky tells tales of other sisters, the Pleiades and the Hyades. Daughters of Atlas and Pleione, the Pleiades were 7 nymphs: Maia, Electra, Taygete, Alcyone, Seleno, Sterope, and Merope. Pursued by the hunter Orion, they were transformed into stars by Zeus, their cluster a beacon in the night. Maia, the eldest, bore Hermes by Zeus, while others became ancestors of royal lineages. The Hyades, also daughters of Atlas and Pleione, were nymphs associated with rain. Their brother, Hyas, was killed by a lion, and their grief was so profound that Zeus placed them among the stars as the Hyades cluster. Their rising marked the onset of the rainy season, their tears nourishing the earth. These starry maidens, both Pleiades and Hyades, bridge the realms of earth and sky. Their stories, etched in starlight, speak of love, loss, and transformation. They are reminders of the delicate balance between the mortal and the divine, the transient and the eternal. In the stillness of night, when the world slumbers, their tales awaken. The Oceanids, the Pleiades, the Hyades, they are the silent choruses of nature, their voices carried by the wind, their stories written in water and stars. The sky held its breath. A hush spread across the heavens, as if the stars themselves paused in anticipation. From the edge of night, a figure emerged, Eos, the goddess of dawn, her fingers tinged with the first light of day. Beside her stood Astraeus, the titan of dusk, his presence marked by the fading glow of twilight. Together, they bridged the gap between night and day, their union giving birth to the winds and stars that dance across the sky. Eos, radiant and ever-renewing, brought forth the morning light, her arrival heralded by the chorus of birds and the awakening of the world. Astraeus, solemn and contemplative, ushered in the night, his touch scattering stars across the canvas of the heavens. Their love was a balance of opposites, a harmony of beginnings and endings. From their union came the anemoi, the winds that sweep across the earth. Boreas, the fierce north wind; Notus, the scorching south wind; Zephyrus, the gentle west wind. Each carried the essence of their parents, a blend of light and shadow, calm and storm. They shaped the seasons, guided the ships, and whispered secrets to those who listened. Their children also included the stars, celestial beings that adorned the night sky. Eosphorus, the morning star, shone brightly before dawn, a beacon of hope and renewal. The stars, born of dusk and dawn, served as eternal reminders of their parents' love, a love that transcended time and space. In another corner of the cosmos, Leto and Asteria, daughters of the titans Coeus and Phoebe, carried their own burdens and blessings. Leto, serene and gentle, became the mother of Apollo and Artemis, the twin deities of the sun and moon. Her trials were many, as she wandered in search of a place to give birth, shunned by land and sea alike. Yet, her perseverance bore fruit, and her children rose to prominence among the Olympians. Asteria, the starry one, chose a different path. Pursued by Zeus, she transformed into a quail and leapt into the sea, becoming the island of Delos. Her sacrifice provided refuge for her sister Leto, who found sanctuary on Asteria's transformed form. Thus, Asteria's act of defiance and love ensured the birth of the next generation of gods. These tales intertwine, each thread woven into the fabric of the universe. The love of Astraeus and Eos paints the sky with stars and stirs the winds. The resilience of Leto and the sacrifice of Asteria give rise to deities who shape the world. Their stories echo through time, whispered by the breeze, reflected in the constellations, and remembered in the dawn's first light. A hush fell over the heavens, unnatural and suffocating. The stars dimmed, as if recoiling from what was to come. In that silence, Hecate stood alone at the crossroads, her torches casting flickering shadows that danced like restless spirits. She was the last of her kind, a titan who had not been cast down, her power undiminished, her will unbroken. The air trembled around her, charged with the weight of ancient oaths and forgotten betrayals. She had watched as her kin were chained and hurled into the abyss, their cries echoing through the void. Yet she remained, untouched by the wrath of Zeus, her allegiance a mystery, her purpose known only to herself. Below, in the depths of Tartarus, the Titans stirred. Their prison was a place of eternal darkness, where time stood still and hope was a memory. The walls pulsed with a malevolent energy, a reflection of the rage and despair that festered within. Chains forged by the gods bound them, but their spirits remained defiant, their hatred a fire that would never be extinguished. Hecate's eyes, glowing with an inner light, pierced the veil between worlds. She saw the suffering of her brethren, felt their pain as if it were her own. But she did not weep, for tears were a luxury she could not afford. Her path was one of solitude and sacrifice, her choices guided by a destiny she could not escape. The gods above whispered her name with reverence and fear. They knew she held the keys to powers they could not comprehend, that her loyalty was not easily won. She walked the line between light and shadow, her presence a reminder that not all who wield power are bound by the same rules. In Tartarus, the Titans waited. Their eyes, once filled with pride, now burned with a desire for vengeance. They dreamed of the day they would rise again, their chains shattered, their oppressors brought low. And in their dreams, they saw Hecate, a beacon in the darkness, a symbol of what they had lost and what they might regain. The wind howled through the underworld, carrying with it the scent of ash and sorrow. Hecate stood unmoved, her torches held high, illuminating the path ahead. She was the guardian of thresholds, the mistress of transitions, the one who guided souls through the unknown. And as she turned away from the abyss, her footsteps echoed with the promise of change, the inevitability of fate. The silence returned, heavier than before, pressing down on the world like a shroud. But within that silence, a spark remained, a flicker of hope that refused to be extinguished. And as long as Hecate walked the earth, the balance between order and chaos would endure, fragile and eternal. A hush fell over the world as the Titans, once mighty rulers of the cosmos, faded into obscurity. Their names, once spoken with reverence and fear, became whispers in the wind, their stories relegated to the shadows of myth. Yet, the echoes of their power lingered, waiting for the moment when they would rise again. In the depths of Tartarus, the prison of the defeated Titans, time stood still. The darkness was absolute, a void where even the concept of time seemed to vanish. Here, the Titans languished, their once great forms reduced to mere shadows of their former selves. The weight of their defeat hung heavy in the air, a constant reminder of their fall from grace. But not all Titans were confined to this eternal prison. Some, like Oceanus, the great river that encircled the world, remained free, their allegiance to Zeus sparing them from the fate of their kin. Others, like Prometheus and the Mys, chose to side with the Olympians, their wisdom guiding them to support the new order. These Titans, though diminished, continued to influence the world, their presence felt in the undercurrents of fate and the whispers of prophecy. Prometheus, the Titan of foresight, bore the weight of his choices. His defiance of Zeus, stealing fire to gift to humanity, led to his eternal punishment. Chained to a rock, his liver devoured daily by an eagle, he endured unimaginable pain. Yet, even in his suffering, he held on to hope, his visions of the future offering solace amidst the torment. The Mys, the embodiment of divine law and order, stood as a bridge between the old and new gods. Her counsel was sought by Zeus, her wisdom shaping the laws that governed both mortals and immortals. She bore the Moirai, the Fates, who wove the threads of destiny, their decisions unalterable even by the gods. Through her, the Titans' legacy endured, subtly guiding the course of the cosmos. In the mortal realm, the influence of the Titans persisted. The Oceanids, daughters of Oceanus, flowed through the rivers and streams, their songs echoing the ancient melodies of creation. The Pleiades and Hyades, starry maidens born of the Titans, adorned the night sky, their light a testament to their enduring presence. Even as the Olympians reigned, the Titans' essence permeated the world, a silent force shaping the destiny of gods and men alike. But the peace was fragile. Beneath the surface, resentment simmered. The imprisoned Titans, their pride wounded, yearned for retribution. Whispers of rebellion stirred in the darkness, the promise of resurgence igniting a spark of hope among the fallen. The balance of power teetered, the potential for upheaval ever present. And then, the earth trembled. A low rumble echoed through the void, growing louder with each passing moment. The chains that bound the Titans strained, the ancient bonds weakening. A surge of energy pulsed through Tartarus, the air crackling with anticipation. The time had come. With a deafening roar, the Titans broke free. Their forms, once diminished, now radiated power, their eyes blazing with determination. The world above felt the shift, the skies darkening as the balance tipped. The Olympians, caught off guard, scrambled to respond, their dominion threatened by the resurgence of the ancient gods. The battle was fierce, the clash of titanic forces shaking the very foundations of the earth. Lightning met stone, fire met water, the elements themselves warring as the Titans sought to reclaim their place. Mortals watched in awe and terror, their lives hanging in the balance as the gods fought for supremacy. In the midst of the chaos, Prometheus stood torn. His allegiance to humanity conflicted with his heritage. He saw the destruction wrought by the Titans' return, the suffering of mortals caught in the crossfire. With a heavy heart, he intervened, seeking to mediate, to find a path that would spare the world from annihilation. The Miss, too, stepped forward, her voice a beacon of reason amidst the turmoil. She called for balance, for a new order that honored both the old and the new. Her plea resonated, a moment of clarity piercing the madness. The fighting ceased, the combatants pausing, the weight of her words sinking in. A new pact was forged, one that acknowledged the contributions of the Titans while upholding the reign of the Olympians. The Titans, though not restored to their former glory, were granted roles that allowed them to influence the world once more. Prometheus was freed, his punishment lifted, his wisdom recognized. The Miss continued her counsel, her presence a guiding force. The world settled, the scars of the conflict slowly healing. The Titans, now shadowy figures of the past, watched from the periphery, their influence subtle yet enduring. The Olympians maintained their rule, but the memory of the Titans' resurgence served as a reminder of the delicate balance that governed the cosmos. And so, the cycle continued, the dance of power and legacy weaving the tapestry of existence. The Titans, though no longer at the forefront, remained an integral part of the world's fabric, their stories etched into the stars, their presence felt in the whispers of the wind. A hush fell over the earth, a silence so profound it seemed the world itself held its breath. The sun hung low, casting elongated shadows that danced like specters across the land. In this eerie stillness, a child was born, not of mortals, but of Titans. Heracles, son of Zeus and Alcmene, emerged into a world teetering on the brink of chaos, his cries echoing like a war drum, heralding the return of ancient power. The blood of the Titans coursed through his veins, a legacy of strength and defiance. Each heartbeat was a reminder of Prometheus's fire, stolen from the gods and gifted to man. Heracles' hands, though small, bore the weight of this inheritance, destined to challenge the very heavens. Perseus, too, carried this burden. Born of Danae and Zeus, he was a beacon of hope and a harbinger of change. His eyes, sharp and unyielding, mirrored the stars from which his lineage sprang. With each step, he walked the path carved by his forebears, confronting monsters that lurked both without and within. These heroes, descendants of Titans, were not mere mortals. They were the embodiment of ancient power, resurrected in flesh and bone. Their struggles were not just against beasts, but against the very fabric of fate, woven by the hands of those who came before. In the shadows of temples and the whispers of the wind, the Orphic and mystery cults kept the old stories alive. They spoke of Dionysus, torn apart by the Titans, his essence scattered across the cosmos. From this divine dismemberment, humanity was born, a fusion of God and Titan, light and darkness. Initiates of these cults sought to understand this duality. Through rituals shrouded in secrecy, they aimed to reconcile the divine spark within with the primal urges inherited from their titanic ancestors. Their ceremonies, filled with fervent dances and cryptic chants, were attempts to peel back the layers of existence and touch the eternal. The Orphic hymns, ancient and haunting, told tales of cosmic eggs and primordial beings. They spoke of Phans, the first light, emerging from chaos to bring order. These narratives, passed down through generations, were more than myths, they were blueprints of the soul's journey, maps to navigate the labyrinth of existence. In the quiet corners of the world, away from the prying eyes of the uninitiated, the mysteries persisted. They whispered of a time when titans would rise again, not in form, but in spirit. Through the deeds of their descendants, through the rituals of the faithful, the ancient power stirred, waiting for the moment to reclaim its place in the tapestry of the cosmos. A hush fell over the earth, a silence so profound it seemed the world itself held its breath. The sun hung low, casting elongated shadows that danced like specters across the land. In this eerie stillness, a child was born, not of mortals, but of titans. Heracles, son of Zeus and Alcmene, emerged into a world teetering on the brink of chaos, his cries echoing like a war drum, heralding the return of ancient power. The blood of the titans coursed through his veins, a legacy of strength and defiance. Each heartbeat was a reminder of Prometheus's fire, stolen from the gods and gifted to man. Heracles' hands, though small, bore the weight of this inheritance, destined to challenge the very heavens. Perseus, too, carried this burden. Born of Danae and Zeus, he was a beacon of hope and a harbinger of change. His eyes, sharp and unyielding, mirrored the stars from which his lineage sprang. With each step, he walked the path carved by his forebears, confronting monsters that lurked both without and within. These heroes, descendants of titans, were not mere mortals. They were the embodiment of ancient power, resurrected in flesh and bone. Their struggles were not just against beasts, but against the very fabric of fate, woven by the hands of those who came before. In the shadows of temples and the whispers of the wind, the Orphic and mystery cults kept the old stories alive. They spoke of Dionysus, torn apart by the titans, his essence scattered across the cosmos. From this divine dismemberment, humanity was born, a fusion of god and titan, light and darkness. Initiates of these cults sought to understand this duality. Through rituals shrouded in secrecy, they aimed to reconcile the divine spark within with the primal urges inherited from their titanic ancestors. Their ceremonies, filled with fervent dances and cryptic chants, were attempts to peel back the layers of existence and touch the eternal. The Orphic hymns, ancient and haunting, told tales of cosmic eggs and primordial beings. They spoke of fans, the first light, emerging from chaos to bring order. These narratives, passed down through generations, were more than myths, they were blueprints of the soul's journey, maps to navigate the labyrinth of existence. In the quiet corners of the world, away from the prying eyes of the uninitiated, the mysteries persisted. They whispered of a time when titans would rise again, not in form, but in spirit. Through the deeds of their descendants, through the rituals of the faithful, the ancient power stirred, waiting for the moment to reclaim its place in the tapestry of the cosmos. A hush fell over the forum, unnatural and thick, as if the very air recoiled from what was to come. The statues of Jupiter and Mars loomed, their stone eyes casting shadows that seemed to shift and breathe. Then, from the depths of the earth, a tremor, a subtle, almost imperceptible quiver, rippled through the marble beneath their feet. It was not the tremor of an earthquake, but the awakening of something ancient, something long thought buried. In the heart of Rome, where the old gods had been supplanted by new orders and philosophies, whispers of the titans began to surface once more. Not as deities to be worshipped, but as symbols, emblems of rebellion, of the indomitable spirit that refuses to be subdued. The Romans, ever pragmatic, recast these primordial beings not as chaotic forces to be feared, but as embodiments of strength and endurance. Cronus, once the devourer of his own children, became Saturn, the god of time and harvest, a figure of contemplation and inevitability. Atlas, condemned to hold up the sky, was seen not as a punishment, but as a testament to resilience, bearing the weight of the heavens with stoic grace. Yet, beneath this veneer of reverence, there lingered an undercurrent of unease. The Titans, though reimagined, were never truly tamed. Their stories, etched into the fabric of Roman culture, served as cautionary tales, a reminder of the thin line between order and chaos, between civilization and the primal forces that lie just beneath the surface. Centuries later, as the Renaissance dawned and the Enlightenment cast its rational light across Europe, the Titans stirred once more. Artists and thinkers, seeking to break free from the constraints of dogma and tradition, found in these ancient figures a mirror for their own aspirations. Prometheus, the firebringer, emerged as a symbol of human ingenuity and defiance. In the works of Boccaccio and Ficino, he was not merely a thief of divine fire, but but a martyr for progress, suffering eternal torment for the sake of humanity's enlightenment. Piero di Cosimo's 1510 painting captured this duality, the agony of punishment juxtaposed with the triumph of creation, as Prometheus breathed life into his clay figure, igniting its heart with stolen flame. The Titans' resurgence was not limited to canvas and sculpture. In literature, their narratives were woven into the fabric of humanist thought. Shakespeare's allusion to Prometheus in Othello evoked the tragic consequences of overreaching ambition, while Enlightenment philosophers saw in the Titanomachy a metaphor for the struggle between reason and superstition. The Titans, once cast into the abyss, now stood as beacons for those who dared to challenge the status quo, to question the divine right of kings, and to seek knowledge beyond the prescribed boundaries. But with this revival came a warning. The Titans' tales were not solely of rebellion and enlightenment, they were also stories of hubris and downfall. The same fire that Prometheus gifted could burn as easily as it illuminated. The weight that Atlas bore was a burden, not a choice. In embracing the Titans as symbols of human potential, the Renaissance and Enlightenment thinkers also grappled with the inherent dangers of unchecked ambition and the relentless pursuit of progress. As the modern age unfolded, the Titans' legacy persisted, their stories evolving yet again to reflect the complexities of contemporary thought. They became archetypes in psychology, metaphors in political discourse, and motifs in art and literature. Their enduring presence served as a testament to humanity's perpetual struggle, to rise, to rebel, to redefine the boundaries of possibility, all while bearing the consequences of such endeavors. And so, in the quiet moments between the ticking of clocks and the turning of pages, the Titans linger. Not as relics of a bygone era, but as ever-present reminders of the duality within us all, the capacity for creation and destruction, for order and chaos, for submission and defiance. Their stories, etched into the annals of time, continue to resonate, challenging each generation to confront the Titans within. The screen flickers to life, casting a pale glow in the darkness. A colossal figure emerges, its form etched in shadows and fire, a titan, reborn through pixels and sound. In this moment, ancient myths collide with modern storytelling, breathing new life into the primordial beings of old. In the 2010 film Clash of the Titans, the narrative reimagines the ancient struggle between gods and titans. Hades, the god of the underworld, unleashes the Kraken, a monstrous entity, to challenge the defiance of mortals. Perseus, a demigod, embarks on a perilous quest, confronting Medusa and ultimately using her petrifying gaze to vanquish the beast. This cinematic retelling intertwines the fates of gods, titans, and humans, illustrating the enduring allure of these mythic tales. Beyond the silver screen, the influence of titans permeates various facets of popular culture. In Disney's 1997 animated film Hercules, the Titans are portrayed as elemental forces, earth, fire, wind, and ice, released by Hades in a bid to overthrow Zeus. This adaptation, while diverging from traditional mythology, captures the essence of the Titans as formidable adversaries. The Titans also find their place in the realm of video games. In the God of War series, players encounter Titans like Gaia and Kronos, whose immense power and tragic narratives add depth to the game's mythological tapestry. These digital incarnations allow players to engage directly with the grandeur and pathos of Titan lore. Literature, too, bears the imprint of Titan mythology. Rick Riordan's Percy Jackson series reintroduces these ancient beings to a new generation, weaving them into contemporary settings and challenges. Through characters descended from Titans, the series explores themes of identity, legacy, and the struggle between old and new orders. The Titans' enduring presence in modern culture underscores their symbolic potency. They embody primal forces, resistance against tyranny, and the cyclical nature of power. Their stories, though ancient, continue to resonate, offering insights into the human condition and the eternal dance between chaos and order. As the screen fades to black, the echoes of Titan footsteps linger, a testament to their unyielding grip on our collective imagination. Their saga, ever-evolving, beckons us to ponder the boundaries of myth and reality, urging us to confront the Titans within and around us.